All right. Ready? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled meeting for Tabor Town Council for Monday, March 27th, 2023. Call the meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda. Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopts the agenda as amended to allow for the opportunity to undertake closed session items prior to the timing of delegations at 5 p.m.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. For the record, Councilor Bruin is not able to attend this evening's meeting. All right. Item 3, public hearings are on. Item 4, 4.1 minutes, regular meeting of council, March 13th, 2023. Mr. Tebow.
Minutes are in front of council, nothing to note.
All right, thank you. Councilor Rudd.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. No business arising. Item 6, bylaws. Item 6.1, third reading for bylaw 2-2023. Amendment to the bylaw 13-2020. Mr. Tebow.
So this is just an administrative error that we had fixed. We waited a couple of weeks for the third reading, if council recalls, and it's here before you now with no changes.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make the required motion. Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives third and final reading to bylaw 2-2023 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councilor Soros, you didn't have any other questions? Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, action items, item number 7, item 7.1, 2021 Canadian Award for Financial Reporting. Mr. Tebow.
Mayor and council, there's no motion required for this, but I do have a little certificate for presentation if we could. And if we could get Mr. Orwa and his financial team to come forward.
Sorry, His Worship and members of council, I didn't want to take this one alone. It's for the team.
Who else we got coming in? There we go. All right, Mr. John Orwood and the complete financial team. Donna, Jen? Tina, all right. Tina is also involved in this. Congratulations on the 2021 Award for Excellence, the Canadian Financial Reporting Award for Excellence 2021. Thank you so much and great job. Very well done. Thank you. Councillor Firth.
I was just curious, how many years in a row have you and your department received this award?
For the records, 5 in a row.
Congratulations.
That is during my tenure in office. It's 5 years.
Great to hear.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Well deserved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's why we've had to move John into a bigger office to make room for all the hardware. That's credit to Mr. John Orwell and the entire financial team as well. So thank you so much. All right. Moving on to item 7.2, utility reduction requests. Mr. Tebow.
Looks like Donna's front and center, ready to provide information.
Yes, thank you, Donna.
Good afternoon. Before you is a utility or request to reduce utilities based on consumption. Property owner had some boiler issues and is just looking to have his utilities reduced.
All right. Thank you. I think everybody's gone through that. Fairly straightforward. Any questions arising? Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, I'm just wondering on if there's a history of this, Donna, if we've been approached like this before. I seem to recall a couple of years back, a hearing held in town by the Utilities Commission. And I just wondered if we've had anything like that go on since, or what do you expect here?
No, that wasn't, the Utilities Commission was a separate issue, but we have had requests to reduce, but more on, if there's a leak, but it didn't actually go into the sewer system, they request to have their sewer charges reduced. We haven't seen anything like this for quite a while, so.
What have you been doing with them?
We don't normally reduce them, our council hasn't normally, I mean, the bylaw says they're responsible, whether it's illegal or accidental, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to make a comment here. I know it's administration's duty, I believe, to deny requests that are obviously not within the purview of administration to administer, especially on this particular case, because it was off-site of the town's utility grid. At the same time, Mr. Mayor, I do have a bit of a sympathy for this particular situation. That's a lot of money. And I would suggest perhaps just floating the idea, maybe suck up half of it, I'm not sure. But I just want to feel my fellow councilors out on that if possible.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
I reciprocate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I reciprocate those feelings too. My daughter's toilet actually was running in Lethbridge, and they didn't notice the first month, and then the second month you play catch up. And it's very, as you can tell, the utilities are very costly for all families involved. So I would be willing to give some type of reduction in utilities too, if this council feels that.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to kind of be in agreement here because, like, especially right now, things are tough. And when your utilities, like when that person, showed his utility bill, regular utility bill versus what he was, then the charges are, it's like a significant amount to then have to afford. And it's just hard to justify it and say, oh no, sorry, you just have to pay the full amount, especially when times are really tight. So that's how I feel too, that if we could give some reduction, that would be probably my idea.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth?
I'm going to play devil's advocate and just ask my fellow councillors to consider that we may be opening ourselves up to a large number of requests that I can sympathize with this homeowner. I can. That's really unfortunate that your boiler failed, and it wasn't, I'm not saying it was his fault. It was, but is it the town's fault necessarily? I'm not sure that I would be comfortable waiving that amount. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, and thanks, Mr. Mayor. In my view, it's not his fault. It's not our fault, but it's something that happens, and he's caught in the middle of it all. And I don't know who it is, and that doesn't matter. And I don't think that it really matters if there's mistakes like that made again in the future. I think they can come to us again. I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right, just before you do, just to weigh in a little bit, Councillor Rudd, thank you. I would agree that, I think council's been reasonably flexible in the past with certain things, but reiterating what Councillor Firth had indicated, that's also a concern as far as potential precedent-setting scenarios. But I guess like anything else, it's on a case-by-case basis. So I can understand this as Councillor McLean, Councillor Becker indicated, also very significant difference. So that I think that has some merit as far as some possible break that could be involved in this case scenario. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I was just wondering what the difference is between the sewer charge. I know in the summer, if you water your grass, it doesn't directly go into the sewer. So what would be the cost involved for this? I'm not sure. You probably can't answer. Yeah.
If you look at his bills, his sewer charge was $300.56 for the 1 month because it's based on consumption.
Okay. And there's a monitor on that?
It's the water meter.
Water
So
meter.
whatever water you use, that's how your sewage charges are.
It's automatically calculated?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd, you prepared to make a motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that council directs administration to reduce utility account number 3610000.001 in the amount of $923.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm speaking against the motion. I think that to write off, waive the total amount would be, at the very least, precedent setting. I think we're treading on very dangerous territory here, Mr. Mayor, and I agree with Council Firth. Must not forget that the taxpayers of town of Taborville have to pay for this in some form or another, and that's only through taxation or extra utility costs. I would suggest a friendly amendment to Council Rudd to waive not the full amount, but half, $450. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd?
Anyone else weighing in? Okay. So, yeah, I'd be willing to accept that amendment. Thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Councilor Rudd. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Amended motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 7.3, proposed enclosed trailer purchase. Mr. Shearer?
Good afternoon, your worship, members of council, on this fine spring day.
Good afternoon.
Beautiful day in southern Alberta. So we're asking council for additional purchase in the capital budget this year. This due to our sanitary sewer camera. We're finding it kind of awkward to move in and out of truck all the time. It's becoming a little unsafe for staff. They need all of their traffic control devices in there, and really they need an all-weather enclosure for this unit. So they're playing around with a $95,000 piece of equipment in the back of the truck, throwing it out. We feel it's safer, more secure in an enclosed trailer, so we're asking council at this time to purchase or allow this in the capital budget so we can purchase it.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So enclosed versus open trailer, so it needs to be an enclosed trailer?
Yes, well, just to protect our staff, everything, and the sewer camera, everything else. It's like an enclosed horse trailer is what it is.
Right, no, I understand what the trailer looks like, but
Yep.
I was just curious. So then do they operate it within the trailer?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I see.
And it's easier to see the screen.
Right.
Especially if you get on daylight, it really is hot. You
Yeah.
can't, when it's sunlight, you can't see the screen.
Okay,
So they need enclosure.
I see. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Councillor Firth?
No questions, but I'm prepared to make a motion.
Very well.
I move the council directs administration to add the purchase of an enclosed trailer to the 2023 capital reserves at a cost of $10,692 exclusive of GST.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Sorensen?
Friendly amendment. I think it's capital budget instead of capital reserves.
Yes, thank you. I think because the 2023 budget is already set, it needs to come from capital reserves. Is that correct?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right,
No.
okay.
Good paying
Perfect.
attention.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 7.4, request for additional funding, Aqua Fund locker replacement. Mr. Tebow?
I think I'll get Mr. Martin to come up and speak to the lockers. This has been, I think, an ongoing request, I think, prior to even my arrival over a year and a half ago. So there's a bit of a history lesson to this one.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
The mayor and council. Yes, we've finally come to a resolution of the lockers. We found a suitable replacement. The price just came in higher than our budget, so we're requesting additional funds to come out of capital reserves so we could complete the project and purchase the lockers that came in a little higher than what we expected.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, that price include the staff removing and installing?
No, we'll use our own staff. This is part of the cost savings we came up with to get the project to completion. So we'll use our recreation staff to install the lockers.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Counselor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the quote, it states other $4,600. Would that be just shipping costs, or I was just wondering what the other would be for?
$4,000. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what that was. I think that is just that's the locking mechanisms and the parts for that, I believe.
Okay.
Because we got coin operated ones.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, so Counselor McLean?
I'm just wondering to administration, how much is left in capital reserves? No?
I believe Mr. Orwa, we had anticipated that question might come our way, so I've asked Mr. Orwa to look that up for us.
Well, at this point, I would say what is left in the capital budget, but not reserves. The reason being, there is a lot of movement in and out in 2022, and the audit is just complete, and we should be passing that to the audit committee once I get the audited financial statements from the auditors. So I'm not very sure exactly the exact amount, because during the year there's a lot of movement in and out. So that should be answered exactly when the audited statements are in.
Okay, but so do we have, sorry, follow up?
Sure,
Mr.
yeah.
Mayor? Like we have enough to cover this?
Yes, for 12,000, yes, for sure, that one is enough to cover that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Counselor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before Mr. Orwa sits down. So we've budgeted 90,000 and it's just over a bit, the quote, $888. So I'm just, what's the 15% contingency for?
So thank you very much. I think that is now an operational matter, and I would request Recreation to explain what they're anticipating to see in the future that we do not know.
Yeah, so our contingency for that was just for hardware, for repairs, any additional hardware that we would need to install the lockers that we might not have foreseen. So it could be less, but we just want that little bit of buffer so we don't have to come back to council and ask for more funds.
All right, thank you. Counselor Rudd?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Brian, could you get us some clarity on that $4,600, that other category? I'd like to hear what that is.
Yeah, we could. I'd have to reopen the bid documents and get that.
Yeah, sure. If you wouldn't mind, let us know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Counselor McLean?
I move that council directs administration to allocate additional funds of $14,521.20 to come from the 2023 capital reserves for the completion of the 2023 locker replacement capital project.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimous. Thank you. Item 7.5, EIIP update. Integration language projects. Mr. Tebow.
Amy has come front and center and she'll provide an update on the EIIP program.
All right, thank you, Amy.
Excellent. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council. We're excited to share with you the updated immigration program stats as of March 16th. So we have 33 supported candidates. In total number of people, including their families, is 85, of which those 33 candidates, there are 13 candidates working here in town already. There's now 21 businesses that have an active candidate, and since September till the end of February, we've actually had 426 serious inquiries, either from candidates or employers. So the nationalities representative, we have 1 from the UK, 19 candidates from India, 5 from Pakistan, 6 from the Philippines, 1 from Kenya, and 1 from the Netherlands. And 30 of those candidates are in the town of Taber working. Well, not working yet, but will be. 1 in the MD and 2 in Vauxhall. So we have seen great success in the program since kicking it off last September, which is only 6 months ago. Many business owners who have struggled to find workers have been able to secure staff to fill the positions. Not only that, but we've seen new business and investment in the community because of the program. Initially, the job positions were being filled with service level positions, But now we're seeing more variety, such as qualified trades. We have the school board, healthcare. They're all getting on board, which is great. We've also accepted the town of Coaldale, Picture Butte, and Raymond on a trial basis to our program. And as we progress in helping their employers and candidates, we'll evaluate the workload required to successfully implement the program across all of our communities. From that point, once we figure out kind of what it looks like, we'll find a reasonable and equitable way to recover the cost of the program from these additional municipalities. In November, we applied for the Settlement Integration and Language Projects Grant to hire another economic development assistant. And we have received approval of this grant to support a second assistant on a 2-year contract, fully paid for by the grant. It also includes funding for monthly welcoming community engagement sessions and monthly employer knowledge and learning luncheons, as well as pop-up educational booths to be used at events to increase awareness of newcomer services, newcomer needs, and to lay the path to successful retention. We are in partnership with TD Cala to collaborate on these educational events. With the 462 inquiries we've had in the last 6 months, the required support of candidates and businesses, it confirms the time requirements estimated for this initiative. A second economic development assistant is required to fulfill the grant requirements, expand the program, help more employers, and build the welcoming committee. In addition, as we onboard other communities, evaluate their requirements and our time commitment, we will request financial support from them, which will help cover the cost of our current economic development assistant. This program has really helped us gain trust with the business owners in the community, and we're creating a stable workforce for the community for long-term growth. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you, Amy. Councillor Rudd.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions.
Yes.
Where's everybody living that's coming to town? We have such a shortage.
Yes, we put every candidate that comes through, we don't put them through to the approval committee until they have somewhere to live. And from the beginning, we've really focused on bringing people's friends and family who are already here. So a lot of people have friends and family that they're living with initially, or the employers have stepped up and either purchased houses to rent back to their employees or find somewhere for them to live.
Oh, that's fortunate. So, and to follow
Yeah.
up, Mr.
Sure,
Mayor.
you bet.
Yeah, so this idea of sharing the service with, say, Pitcher Butte and Raymond
And Coaldale.
and Coaldale, okay. So we're getting a grant, is my understanding of reading, that we're getting a grant that's gonna cover the thing 100%. So it's not gonna be, there's no cost to Tabor, and yet we're talking about cost recovery. So I'm just wondering where that comes from. Why is that, if our position is covered, then why would we ask other people to contribute? And, is this not something we're doing for the greater good? And can that not be reflected in the report back on the grant, use of the grant funds in a collaborative way, which is always popular with those handing out grants? So,
That's a good question, and definitely something we could look into. Our initial thought was that we'll have 2 economic development assistants working on the program. So one is fully paid for, and then we'll recover some money to help pay for the current one that we have as well, that council is currently paying for.
All right, I see, that makes more
But
sense.
we don't
yeah.
have to if you don't want to.
no, I just, yeah, so it's money back on the first position as
Yes.
opposed to the second position?
Yes.
Okay, I understand that, thank you.
All right, I think Mr. Tebow had some input on that one.
Yeah, I was going to explain pretty much the same thing. There is certain requirements that this grant individual has to fulfill, and it cannot overlap very much at all with our initial hire of Shannon, that first grant. And so most of the work that Shannon is doing is related to the initial EIIP. This particular individual, from my understanding, does a little more with the businesses and the welcoming, which is a part of what Shannon does, but not all of what Shannon does. So the work that Shannon does is what we would look to recover. This one, you're correct. We wouldn't want to do a recovery on something that isn't costing us anything.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your report, Ms. Allred. Excellent job. Because Coaldale, Picture Butte, and Raymond are now in our slipstream, I guess, I do think there should be some fair and equitable arrangement for any costs that we might incur, because obviously there is a cost to the town of Taylor because you're standing here,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So there's some time involved in here that's costly, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes, we just wanted to take them on a trial basis initially to figure out what that time and cost looked like and how we could structure it to be fair to all the communities. And we didn't know what that looked like initially, so we definitely will be doing that. We just haven't figured out the details yet.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. I don't know, Mr. Tebow, was there some preliminary discussion with those 3 other municipality locations for that possibility?
Preliminary discussions around costing.
Right.
Not really. We let them all know that we're going to do it on a trial basis.
Okay.
So that's the discussions we've had for sure with Coaldale. I don't know if we have with Victor Butte and Raymond, but
Okay.
yeah, just to see what it does take for time because we haven't got it figured out
Right.
how to
Okay.
best
It's
recoup.
too early to tell just yet, I guess. All right, perfect. Thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd just like to applaud administration for taking this and just going with it. I was actually wondering how you actually can fulfill all of these requirements and still talk to 450 people and, you know, help the businesses and communities. So I think this is a great idea. And at this time, I'd be prepared to make a motion. Mr.
All
Mayor.
right, you bet. Go right ahead.
That council directs administration to accept the settlement, integration and language projects SILP grant funding of $159,401 and to hire an additional economic development assistant to assist with the EIIP programming for a 2-year term.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 7.6, reallocation of 2022 capital funding. Mr. Tebow.
So again, we'll get Brian Martin to come up and speak to what's going on here.
All right, thank you. Brian?
So in our capital budget, we had $12,000 put aside for a new auto scrubber. When I came on board, I evaluated that we had 4 working auto scrubbers that were in decent shape. They just needed some maintenance, so I put them on a maintenance program. They're up to snuff, so we do not need the funds for the new auto scrubber. But in the meantime, our basketball nets have failed, and they're not usable. They're very dangerous to fall down and stuff. So we're looking to just allocate the funds from the auto scrubbers so we can purchase new basketball nets.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of questions, actually. I'm just curious, is the maintenance of the scrubbers is already in your budget? Like
It's
the
coming
cost
out
for
of
the maintenance?
Yeah, it'll come out of operating budget,
Okay.
which we have funds for, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then the second question is, great that the basketball nets are gonna be replaced. I'm just curious, the usage of the drop-in center, do you know how much, like, how many people you get on average, or no?
It's been steadily building. It went through that lull of obviously with COVID, with not being open.
For
So
sure.
everyone's sort of rushing now, and we're getting quite a bit more usage out of it. Even for birthday parties and such, people want to rent it and have the split of the gym for basketball and volleyball or pickleball. So yeah, we're getting a demand for it right now,
Okay.
and just can't meet it.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that council directs administration to reallocate $12,000 in the capital funds, which was designated for the purchase of a floor scrubber, to purchase a replacement basketball net system for the auditorium/gymnasium.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.7, IT physical security policy. Mr. Tebow.
So my understanding is there's no recommended changes for this policy, but I see Al is here and he's been itching to get up to this microphone if anyone had any questions.
All right, Al.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. As
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Thibault said, yeah, there is no changes, just a 3 years review. And if council have any questions, I'm here to answer.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd?
Yes, I was just wondering the move went over to the new facility and whether, you know, security measures are in place there and everything. Give us a little rundown on that.
We don't have any data centers at the new location. Our data center is here in administration and the police station, so that's been secured already. But yeah, the new location is pretty good. We have a big storage, big office size, and everything is secured as well.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't get you away with nothing, Al. So you're telling us if there's no change needed on the security policy because it's perfect, is that correct?
So far.
Perfect?
I hope so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right, and Al, obviously things must be doing pretty well over the new location. We rarely see you back here, so it can't be that bad, right? So, okay, perfect. Any other questions? All right, thanks. I'm prepared to make a motion. Councilor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be prepared to make a motion to make it easy for you. I make the motion that council adopts the IT physical security policy CS-IT-8 as presented.
All right, thank you. Councilor Firth, you had a question also? Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Al. All right, on to item 7.8, key to town policy renewal. Mr. Tebow.
Again, this is a policy as part of our 3-year renewal. There wasn't any changes being recommended, but Megan Brennan is here should there be any questions.
All right, thank you. What's that?
Just as Mr. Tebow said, if council wishes to change the policy, now is your opportunity.
All right, thank you. Councilor McLean?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question. Has this policy ever been used?
It has indeed. Off the top of my head, and I could be wrong, but we have given one key to the town, and that was to Vice Admiral Ron Lloyd for the Navy.
That's correct. I believe that is the one and only time, correct? Right. All right, thank you. Councilor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we all know, when you have a key, it allows you to enter something or somewhere, correct? And we just talked about security. The more keys you give out, the less secure you become, right?
Well,
So what are
Al
we
just
doing?
said we were perfect, so I don't think we have to worry too much.
And just to clarify, Councilor Beckering, this is a gigantic key, so I don't know if this would physically open anything.
Oh,
in town.
I'm
It's more-
sorry.
It's more ceremonial and, prestige orientated, I guess, is the basic concept behind it. All right, any other questions arising? All right, somebody make a motion. Councilor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approves the key to the town policy C-7 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 7.9, flag protocol policy. Mr. Tebow?
Megan's still here.
Yes, I see that.
This one will be for her as well. There is one adjustment to this one, and now let Megan speak to that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tebow. So there's only a minor change. The protocol policy used to reference a procedure in 2.3, but as council doesn't approve procedures, we just change that to be policy. So once again, if council wishes to change the flag protocol, this is your opportunity to do so. Otherwise, it's just our standard 3-year renewal.
All right, thank you. Councilor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Prepared to make a motion,
All right.
if Council Firth allows me. Mr. Mayor, I'll move that council approves the flag protocol policy C-9 as presented.
All right, thank you. And Councilor Firth has a question, I believe, or comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for making the motion, Councillor Beckering. You were very, very quick at that. I did have a suggestion. I was wondering if it is possible to strike item 2.17 from the policy. It states no requests for additional flags to fly on town flagpoles or property other than dignitary flags shall be considered or for approval by council. I would like the opportunity for organizations to be able to bring a request to council if they had a flag they would like to fly or a special day that they wanted to celebrate. I would like that opportunity for those groups to be able to come to council and make that request, and then it can be decided on a case-by-case basis. So that would be a friendly amendment if Councillor Beckering would allow it.
All right, thank you, Councilor Beckering.
Mr. Mayor, I got to do some thinking on that, and it's hard for me to do. But I would suggest to Council Firth that you could possibly open up situations where it becomes very personal and becomes very, you have to make a decision based on the particular likes of an individual or an organization or not. So I think it could be fractious, to say the least. amongst council. And that's why I'm hesitant to accept the friendly amendment, Mr. Mayor. So I'm not saying no yet, but I'd like to see a little more discussion, please.
All right, thank you, Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that's my comment or question is if there is an additional flag pole that we could fly different flags from, because I think there's specific ones that are intentional to be flown in front of the building.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Did you have a question for administration about that then?
Is
or
there another
Mr.
flag
Tebow?
pole other than the ones out front?
So we have the 4 flagpoles out front. We do have one flagpole out back with the Canada flag on it. Currently at Town Hall, that's the only flagpoles that we have. We have other flagpoles around different properties, the Cenotaph and a few of the parks, but yeah, just here, that's what we have.
All right, thank you, Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Flag protocols are, traditional, they're honor-based, and, they're very serious business. The flags, the history of them and the tradition of them. And I don't think that, I like the way the policy is written. It makes reference to, the established protocols, and that would be an avenue to go through if we wanted to change anything. But it's not for, whimsical look at me types of flags, types of causes, things like that. I know organizations do have flags, like fertilizer companies and car dealerships. They have their own flag for their own purpose, and but I don't think it's up to our public display here. I think we need to keep proper decorum in display of flags and approve the policy as is.
All right, thank you, Councillor Firth.
I absolutely agree that we should follow proper decorum. I would suggest that if we were going to allow that we would follow the guidance of the Alberta legislature, which does allow for organizations on a case-by-case basis. They have a protocol set out as to which ones are allowed to fly and which ones aren't. And I just had a question to administration. So when we fly a dignitary's flag, which flag, I would suggest that would be the flagpole that we would use. So which flag comes down?
The history states that it would be the country flag. So when the Consul General of Japan comes, we fly the flag of Japan, okay. And that would fly under the Canadian flag as precedent, because it's higher than the Alberta flag because it's a country, but our country comes first, so it's the Canada flag on top and then the country flag. Same when the Czech ambassador came, and same when the Kenyan delegation came.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bickering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Rudd that it is a very decorous thing. Flag is a very serious business, and for us to entertain organizations or individuals for a change of flag or acceptance of a flag, I'm sorry, Councillor Firth, I cannot accept your friendly amendment. Sorry.
All right, thank you, Councillor Rudd.
Just comment on that. Asking to follow Alberta legislature. I think sometimes they make decisions up there that are more to do with popular sway than they are to do with following a tradition, and I'd like to think that the towns can be that last bastion of we're going to do it the right way and honor the history of our country and the history of our province, and so I would still be in favor of adopting the policy as presented.
All right, thank you. We do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, thank you, Megan. All right, on to item 710, Community Emergency Management Plan. Chief Montreal.
You tricked me, Mayor. You went straight to Mr. Munshaw. I was waiting to.
Well, he was on his way up. I just
He was on his way up. You're
had
right.
to catch him before he got here, so.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I appreciate being up here. I get so excited I run out of my seat. So I'm hoping you guys were able to make your way through that beautiful document that I gave you, over 400 pages. So what this was just to basically review our community emergency management plan. This is an annual review done annually each year in March. You had to go back in your record, you'd seen it last year. And we again then passed it through the AEMA, confirmed that we're all right on track. They're happy with our outcomes, and you'll notice in there, their main conversation was, how's your 5-10-year plans for training look? Those are always challenging because what was last year changes this year with new faces and their educational model. So that'll always be changing. But according to them, it's a pass and it's a great move forward. So we met last week with our Municipal Emergency Management Committee, and they passed that and reviewed it. And now I'm bringing it to council for information.
All right, thank you, Chief Munshaw. Councillor Becker.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the chief mentioned, Councillor Rudd, myself, and Mayor Andy are on the Emergency Management Committee. We discussed it last week at our meeting. It took us 4.5 hours. So don't argue with us, please.
All right, yes, thank you. And I can reiterate that, and I know through discussion with Councillor Becker that he went through that extensive document, paragraph by paragraph, line by line, and he can recite that verbatim if needed. All right, any other questions? Councillor Rudd.
Having sat on the committee for that 4.5 hours, I deduced that this boils down to trusting our fire chief, and I trust him. And with that in mind, I'd like to make a motion that council accepts the updated 2020 Community Emergency Management Plan, CEMP, for information only.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 711, department reports. Go through those individually. If you have any questions, please advise accordingly. First is Finance Department report. Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, I noticed in the report, John, that the auditors you were preparing for the auditors, and then I know that the auditors had been present, and I'm just curious if there was any irregularities identified to you, and I guess the follow-up to that would be if there was any identified to the CAO on from the auditors. I know we probably don't have their final report yet, but if there was going to be something untoward coming, I'm sure they would have given you a little tap on the shoulder to be prepared for something. Can you comment on that, please?
Thank you very much. I think at this point, I would say, we do have the procedure and then the protocol. So what happens here is once the auditors have exited the scene, they were in the field audit, they're now compiling their reports. And the first one, of course, will be tabled before the audit committee. So from there, then it will filter through. So at this point, I would say no comment.
All right, thank you. Councillor Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Councillor Rudd, a very good answer, Mr. Oven. I didn't expect anything less. The audit committee will see it first, and then it goes to council. Correct, sir?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I think we meet on Friday, do we not?
Yes, we are.
We do, that's correct. All right, CAO Department report. Recreation Facilities Plan and Economic Development Department report. Engineering and Public Works report. Public Works Treatment Facilities reports. Fire Department report. And Administrative Service report. No other questions? All right. No motion required. Moving on to, 712, Mayor and Council reports. Councillor Firth, would you start us off, please?
Certainly can. Just give me, there we go. I attended all of my required meetings, including the Taber Chamber of Commerce, the Taber Municipal Police Commission, a regular meeting and a special meeting, the Trout Pond Committee meeting, the Arts and Heritage Committee meeting. As well, I attended the Taber Arts and Crafts Society's AGM, the Trail 77 AGM, and 2 sessions of coffee with council. Oh, and the horsefly spillway groundbreaking ceremony. That's it.
All right, thank
Horsefly
you.
spillway.
All right, Councillor Beckering, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also attended the meetings that I was supposed to go to, and also went to the Horsefly Spillway opening. Also went to a meeting several weeks ago on a Saturday at the Lethbridge to pretty good news regarding the agri-food corridor which is being created between Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. There's some exciting things happening, but the most exciting thing, of course, was, Mr. Mayor, that our MLA, Mr. Grant Hunter, has been appointed as the lead person on behalf of the Minister of Infrastructure and Transportation to lead the way on this huge potential development for the betterment of our Southern Alberta agri-food corridor. Lots of things happening, I believe, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was able to attend most of my meetings. I just missed last council meeting, but and also I was also able to attend one of the coffees with council. But other than that, that's all I have to report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I attended all my meetings as required. We had a presentation by Star on 54th in the Recreation Department, no, Arts and Heritage, I believe, and just very exciting things. So I want to just say that they have a lot of support from the community. I also attended the TCAPS fundraiser, which is going to help the Star on 54th. So. And some really good presentations in the police commission meeting. So yeah, I enjoyed all the meetings.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended most of my required meetings, including the arduous 4.5-hour emergency committee meeting. But I neglected to look at my calendar soon enough to make the agenda meeting that was held on the Thursday, and apologize for that. And as deputy mayor, I apologize for that. And have the next one scheduled. But I did attend other meetings as required, and attended the fundraiser for Star on 54 and the Crisis Fund. Those me splitting that money. It was a very successful event, and supported that. And then on this, I'll report next time, but coming Friday is a day-long South Grow conference in Lethbridge that I'll be at, and I'm sure we'll be doing some follow-up with the food corridor and such. Thank you.
All right, thank you. For myself, I did attend a variety of meetings as required. Many check and letter signing requirements as well. I did attend our MLA Grant Hunter's hosted UCP dinner and gala event at Coaldale recently. Also the Horsefly Spillway groundbreaking ceremony event, as well as the Trail 77 AGM. Also attended the MCC Thrift Store re-grand opening and their 50-year celebration in business related to renovations and the support of 65 countries that they also deal with and help across the world. Attended to both Coffee with Council Thursday and Friday events. Also this past weekend attended the Cowboy Poetry and Singing and participated as well at the Community Center event. It was very well run and very well attended. And I also attended the Alberta Vegetable Growers Luncheon AGM at the Heritage Inn earlier today. So with that, unless there's any other questions, no motion required. All right, moving on to item 713, standard item council requests. Anything come to mind?
I can speak to the listing,
All right.
Mr. Mayor, first, if you didn't mind.
Sure.
So we do have the survey out still that I believe I got some results from that. We're sitting at about a 9% return on the survey for results so far, and it closes, I believe it's April the 3rd. Yeah. So still have them coming in. We haven't counted any of the paper versions yet. This is just the electronic version. So pretty good return, 9% for surveys, as far as surveys go. The request from Councillor Sorensen for 43rd Street to 56th Avenue is still in progress with the developer. And Councillor Bruin's request of looking at 43rd and 50th Street, opening that up is obviously still in progress. That'll be a little ways off yet, so that one will continue to haunt the standing item list for a little while. And I'll turn it over to Council.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question from someone in regards to, is there a bylaw with regards to parking travel trailers on the road, even though they are still attached to vehicles? Because they're finding it sometimes parked there for months on end, and so a question there.
All right, thank you. Mr. Tebow, you up on that one?
While I'm not 100% up on the bylaws that the Taber Police would look after, perhaps Mr. Rudd would have a better memory of things like that, but I'm sure there is something to do with probably 72 hours in one place or something similar to that, but I don't know specifically. I'd have to take away on that.
Right, thank you. Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Tebow. There is a bylaw that requires a travel trailer, holiday model, to be hooked to a vehicle while it's on the street. There's no time limit on that, and there's if the vehicle is, if the trailer is parked independently, there's no time limit on that either. If it's found that way, it's an offense. There's an exception for construction trailers and for work taking place at residential work taking place in the community, where a tradesman would come and put a trailer and leave it there. So there's an exception granted for that. Otherwise, they have to be hooked to a vehicle, and no vehicles can sit on the street any longer than 72 hours. After 72 hours, they're considered abandoned, but we know people park for months on end. But if there's somebody sitting with a travel trailer months on end, that can easily be taken care of by bylaw.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the information.
You bet. All right, and Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a few come out of the Coffee with Council sessions. One of them was a request to investigate a boat launch, like not a power boat, but like for canoes or kayaks into Sugar Factory Lake. Is that its actual name?
Tabor Lake.
Tabor Lake, okay.
Really, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I'd be willing to make a motion.
Yeah, I think just to clarify, I think just there was some discussion on that, as was suggested, that there really isn't anywhere there to launch a boat. So we're looking at doing the boardwalk format through our wetlands project. Anyway, with the boardwalk format through the marshland there. So going from memory, I don't think that would be that difficult to have something set up for that purpose, for a short walking distance from that fence location. Obviously, that'd have to be looked into by administration, but absolutely, if you're prepared to make a motion, that's a great idea.
I move that council directs administration to investigate the cost and feasibility of a non-powered boat launch at Tabor Lake.
All right, fair enough. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Another issue I believe also came up on the Thursday session was some sidewalk damage or repair requirement issues and or water drainage in the 3800 block of 53rd Street, south side location. There was also some photos presented that showed a great deal of water laying on the street and or sidewalks at that location. Some probably 4 or 5 year old original sidewalk replacement done that is now, again, in need of replacement. So, getting prepared to make a motion, something like that. I believe you were part of that also, Councillor Firth, and some other members of the council. But, Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be prepared to make a motion that administration investigates the feasibility of, I don't know what,
Water drainage. and
water
road sidewalk
drainage
repair.
in that location. I don't have the location in front of me,
3800 block and 53rd Street.
including costs to repair that.
And that's including the sidewalk as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sidewalk
All
also.
right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Also came out on the Friday session was some questions or concerns about rust on all metal surface at the pool, swimming pool, related to the high humidity concerns that have occurred related to the equipment that's in need of serious repair here. I believe it's slated for April, so that's been going on for the last 3 or 4 months, I believe. So that's apparently, I believe maybe administration is already aware of that, but if someone could just form a motion to look into that further as well, I think it would be helpful for administration to follow up. Councillor Firth?
I'm not sure if administration would like a motion or not, but just that it was, yeah, the concern was that because of the air handling unit, I'm guessing it's not dealing with the humidity as well as the actual unit itself. And so there was some concern that there was rust on all metal surfaces. I'm guessing you're aware. And is there a plan in place to deal with it?
Mr. Thibault?
So administration can come back with some information on what that's all about. It definitely is due to not having our HVAC system up there and running. There's certainly, we've had discussions around the lockers are deteriorating much faster than they were before. As far as a bunch of other surfaces, I don't know myself what all those surfaces might be, but administration can look into that and come back with some information and some idea around what that looks like.
So you don't need an actual motion on that particular one?
I don't think so. Well, administration will come back.
Okay.
I'll take that on me.
Okay, very good, thank you. And the one other thing that came up was the lighting concern, or not so much a concern. There's a lack of lighting at the Star Theater parking lot. There is lighting in the parking lot, but it's shut off fairly early. So it was more of a concern of the security and or safety of users in the area. Some activity going on in the darkness as a result of whatever is happening there. Councillor Beckman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're talking about the Star 54?
Yes, yep.
Well, that's not our property, so.
No, I know, but it's a coffee with the council concern. I did have that discussion earlier with Mr. Thibault. Mr. Thibault?
Yeah, Councillor Becking's correct. It's not our property, but administration certainly could relay a message to Star and 54 that that's been brought forward to council as a concern. That's about as far as we could go on it, unless there's a street light problem, but my understanding is that's not the
I
problem.
don't think it was that. I think it was all parking lot area. Yes. Councillor McLean?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to say the same thing, but it's
Okay.
not town property.
Thank you. Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was another area in town that was plagued by that same problem, late night parking and such. So they worked with the police and they were required to post more signs. So that would be a recommendation to that organization. And as well, there's a provision to allow the organization that owns the property to do their own enforcement and issue bylaw tickets for trespassing or being there after hours. So I would suggest that they just contact the police and get that worked out. I mean, it's a nuisance for sure for the, it's not our property for sure, but, the neighbors living in that area,
Yep.
Are bothered by that activity. So that's
Exactly.
make that suggestion.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and this was brought, I think, before to Coffee with Council, and I believe it's a timer issue too. Maybe they just have to reset their timer. I think the residents in the area noticed that, it was only on till 6 o'clock or something like that, or just for a short period of time. So if you
Great.
could include that in your letter, please.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other standing item council requests? All right. That's enough. That is enough. All right, seeing none, just ask for motion to move into our half an hour meal break to reconvene at 5 p.m. for our delegation. Councillor Beckert?
You betcha, Mr. Mayor, also move.
Right, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. All right, if we could reconvene the meeting, please. Moving on to our delegation, My City Care, Mr. Tebow.
So we've got a few people here to present for My City Care. The names I have are, hopefully pronounce them correctly, Jen Tribble, Pastor Kelly Stickle, Renee Angermeyer, and Douglas Bergen. So come on up. And
All right, thank you. So all four of you are welcome if you'd like to speak, or whoever's speaking, whichever you like.
Not all at once. Condense it.
Pastor Kelly, welcome.
Yeah, welcome, Mayor and members of Town Council. My name is Kelly Stickle. I'm the lead pastor of Parallel Church. And 2 years ago, we changed the name of our church to Parallel because we have a vision to come alongside the communities that we serve. And 6 years ago, we started My City Care for the purpose of empowering our community to be safe, healthy, and thriving. And we do this by activating organizations and individuals to meet the 6 basic human needs Jesus addressed in Matthew 25: food, clothing, housing, health, water, and justice. And just in the last year alone, we were able to help 49,344 individual needs across southern Alberta. That included handing out 84,309 meals. We provided 106,191 clothing items and handed out 1,037 hygiene kits to women in need. We partnered with 243 local agencies and community partners and invested 13,412 volunteer hours into the communities we serve. And on top of the 5 parallel church communities and partner locations, we met similar needs in 53 other communities in Alberta and another 7 communities in BC. In May of 2021, the Community and Social Development for the City of Lethbridge challenged the faith community at the local ministerial to become engaged in the current housing crisis within the City of Lethbridge. And as My City Care, we believe that housing is a basic human right, and we also recognize that of the 6 needs we target for our mission, we have yet to address housing. Therefore, we immediately booked a follow-up meeting and learned more of the specific needs facing our community and the communities in southern Alberta, and we soon recognized that the need far outweighed one community, and to be effective in helping, we needed to work as the region and not just one specific city. So a problem this big needed a collective solution. We recognize the current need as evidenced in our daily interaction with people through My City Care across our locations. In Lethbridge alone, 3,900 households in our community are in core housing need. We also recognize the future need for affordable housing with our current economy and projected population increases. And we know that the communities like Tabor and Coaldale offer support that larger communities can't always provide. That makes them the ideal place for families who need additional support and community. We recognize the need for affordable housing for our Indigenous population. We also recognize the need for affordable housing for the incoming immigrant population. We recognize the increasing pressures inflation is placing on young families, particularly single mothers. And because of those needs, our priority population for this inclusive project is women and children of all ethnicities. A point of interest is that 27,369 of those individuals we helped last year in Lethbridge alone were children under the age of 18. Our proposed project is not supportive living. It's not traditional transitional housing. It is not an emergency shelter, and we desire to provide affordable, sustainable housing that is responsible for today and tomorrow. And because of who we are and how we are currently active within our community, in particular, community of Tabor, we believe that we will be a great system navigator to provide a continuum of community care for those who are housed within our property. And I'll now turn it over to Renee Angermeyer, who's going to share about the work we have previously done in Tabor.
All right, thank you. Pastor Renee, welcome also.
All right, thank you. So I'm just going to share a few numbers from what My City Care has done just in this past year alone. We've been in Tabor now for parts of 4 years, but these are numbers just in the last calendar year. So we've served 1,930 people in Tabor and the surrounding areas. and have invested over 1,800 volunteer hours as well. This last year, we distributed 4,489 clothing items to Tabor families in need through our street store events and just through our office. We supported 640 individuals through our Shop of Wonders program. That's the Christmas event we host. And 37 students through Stuff the Bus. This year we also held Night to Shine in person. It was our first Night to Shine event since COVID, and that's a night for people with high needs in our community. And we had 23 members of our special needs community come out for that, and if you haven't been there, you need to come check it out. Wow, what an amazing night. This year we also had the opportunity to come alongside our schools with the Alberta Nutrition Grant, and in partnership with the province and both school districts, we're serving 11 local Tabor schools and providing 210 lunches a week, 210 lunches a week through the Healthy Heroes Lunch Program. Since this January, when the program launched, the middle of January, we have given out 1,569 lunches. That's not including today, which another 100 and so went out. We're proud members of this community. I am, my family is, Parallel Churches, and we believe that this housing project is needed. We see it all the time, and we want to be there to work alongside the town, the provincial government, and other agencies to make sure people who don't have housing get housing, and that's why we're here. So now I'll turn it over to Doug, and he'll talk about the specific housing project details.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bergen.
Your Worship, members of council, thank you for inviting me back again. I'm going to give you a little bit of a history on how I came across this rapid housing initiative, and it'll give you some background. So 2.5 years ago, the Aboriginal Housing Society in Lethbridge, whom I'm friends with the CAO, not the CAO there, I'm friends with the CAO here, with the administrator there, they were working with CMHC on what they call a demonstration project. So they had been working with CMHC for 18 months before I got there, but they needed someone that could push. So it was a competition between myself and 2 other individuals, and I was granted the position of administrator of a 132 unit housing project that was $38 million. And so for 2 years, I met on Zoom with senior CMHC officials from right across the country. The demonstration project was to identify pain points in the system because they had $70 billion to give away, not give away, to loan, and they weren't loaning anything because small communities that had unsophisticated applicants couldn't qualify. So I got a grant writer who had worked for the city for 30 years and an accountant and then myself to push the whole program through. And we were given $38 million to do this project, half of which was forgivable. So we got $16 million for free and $17 million that we have to pay back. So the reason that they give you the forgivable portion is so that you can reduce rents. So it goes to a nonprofit, it's not for-profit agencies, and this particular project is purely Indigenous. So we had to team up with several Indigenous organizations in order to qualify, and many of the members of the Aboriginal Housing Society board are Indigenous. And so through that process, I got to know CMHC very well and how they work. So when Pastor Kelly preached a 17-week series on helping our community, and when I take responsibility for the issues in my community, it gives me the ability to respond to those needs. And so what can I do for the Aboriginal Housing Society? What can I do for the people of Lethbridge to provide housing? Well, obviously, I develop land and I draft buildings for a living. So that's my contribution, but then also I became quite astute with my team at gaining funds from CMHC. So the Rapid Housing Initiative came out after the project that I did in Lethbridge for the Aboriginal Housing Society. This program is a check. It's a grant. They have $1.5 billion that they need to give out across Canada. Sounds like a lot of money, but it's not. The $70 billion pot sounds a lot better to me. But nonetheless, this is the Rapid Housing Initiative where they want you to create housing within an 18-month period. And when you're stick building, or what we're doing in Lethbridge with concrete, it's very, very hard to meet that goal. But at any rate, we designed a project for My City Care. It's a completely sustainable net zero project. It's in a 4-story apartment building to be built in West Lethbridge. And we worked on it for a year and just made the application now. But it's going to be really skinny to get that thing done in 18 months, where we made the application. But then if we actually get the grant money, we're going to have to pedal pretty hard. So laying in bed one night thinking, how can we go faster? Mobile homes, that would be a lot faster, right? So I phoned the factory, can we get together 25 homes just like that? They said no problem. So it's very rare on these applications that you can check the 12-month box, but with mobile homes, we can check the 12-month box, and you get more points for 12 months than you do for 18 months. So the My City Care project in Lethbridge probably won't go, but this one has a lot of favor. I'm just kidding. So at any rate, so I can go through the PowerPoint presentation, but that's the meat and potatoes of what we're doing here. So the Rapid Housing Initiative is to deliver affordable housing to communities right across Canada. Now they do take the 1.5 billion and they allocate it per region, per province, per region. So it's not that Toronto or the big centers can eat it all up. There is allocated funds, I don't know how much it is, for Southern Alberta. So how favorably they'll look upon Taber and Coaldale and Lethbridge, I don't know. We don't know how they think. All we know is that they will have hundreds of applications, and we had to complete the application by the 15th of March, and they make decisions by the 1st of April. Hundreds and hundreds of applications, and it's a small book that you have to write. It's very, very onerous. So they have to go by the point system. In other words, take the top half of them and toss them out if they don't meet the point system. So the higher the points is going to get you to the table of the individual that's making the decisions, I believe. So I know that our Taber application scores very high. The municipality was generous in contributing $175,000 by way of a taxation program that we took advantage of, which will be very, very good. We're able to offer amazing rents because, again, this is a check. They write you a check for $7.5 million. So we still have management fees. If these are low-income households, so we've got a single mom with 3 kids that only works part-time, we're likely going to have to mow her lawn and look after her and do those kinds of things. But if we get the housing for free, we'll have lots of resources to be able to help them out. So the minimum is 5 units. We applied for 25 units. Your minimum ask is $1 million. We asked for 7.5, and don't ask me where I came up with that number of 25 houses. I just pulled it out of a hat. And it's to be permanent housing, obviously, a minimum of 3 months stay, but likely it will be longer than that, obviously. We have to get them done in 18 months, as I mentioned, and it has to be affordable, which is no more than 30% of their income. And so there's a table at the end where we go through it. So, single moms, immigrants, Ukrainian immigrants, those kinds of things. I did get a call from an individual from Calgary that was trying to place immigrants here in your town. And so she was looking at the 4 used mobile homes that we pulled in. And so she hasn't called me back yet. She was looking for funding. So a for-profit agency did not qualify, so it's not like I could make this application for you. So it's My City Care that we selected as the nonprofit because we're working with them in Lethbridge, and they're very, very active here in your town. It could also have been a municipality, but most municipalities don't want to own that much real estate for 20 years and guarantee low-income rents. My own company was used extensively through the applications because we have 30 years of experience in running rental properties, and so you had to prove that you had a very knowledgeable and reputable organization managing your properties. So basically, of course, it says proposal, but we were supposed to be before you before we actually made this application, but apparently we didn't make it on your agenda in time. So that's our fault. But nonetheless, here we are. The application is in, and we will know relatively shortly whether we made the cut. So we were 13 20 wides and 12 22 wides. And you look at the rents in Tabor that you could ask for that product being $15.81 and $16.86 respectively. And we can do it for half of that and still have a lot of money left over to manage these houses and show a profit, if you will, or a surplus to the nonprofit at the end of it all. So should we have favor with CMHC, it would be remarkable to put 25 new homes in the Meadows within a one-year period. So I know you're anxious to see what's going on out there. We were hoping for some warm weather. It's very difficult for us to skirt the homes when the gravel's frozen. We can't get the skirting level, and so they're all heated, the power's on, we're painting in there, so I'm happy to take you through a tour. I think the 22 wide, the big one on site, it's ready for sale. We were able to, that site was level enough that we were able to use the skirting that we received from the home. The others are all getting new skirting. The one that we got from Camrose is in pretty rough shape. So we put all brand new flooring in and then learned that we had a defective glue in the flooring. So we just tore it all out and we're putting new flooring in again. So these are the joys of renovating. But nonetheless, we're going to make it through and they're going to be amazing. And so I'm just working with my team now that you can have a tour. And you know, you all understand housing, so some of it will be ready to sell and some of it will still need a little bit of TLC. But I'm happy to take you through. But we're anxious because there is a market for the price point that we're at, and it should be no problem to move these on and then see what your appetite is for more. So with that, Council, I put it to you for questions if you've got anything.
All right, thank you so much for your presentation. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, thank you, Mr. Bergen, for the presentation, also Renee and Pastor Kelly. Lots of good information being given to us tonight. I guess when Mr. Bergen talked about 25 units at $7.5 million, in my layman's head, that's about $300,000 per unit. So that's why how you come up with that number, I guess, Douglas. I just want to get it clear that my city carers would own the property, and they will look after the rentals and the maintenance and all the stuff that goes with that. And we, as a town, of course, would provide you with substantial tax, I think, tax breaks in that regard. So that would be our participation, I imagine, but because I think we've talked about that in the past. Yeah. What do you think, Doug? Is going to happen or what?
Your worship, to Councillor Beckering. Is it going to happen? We have no idea what CMHC will do. But I've talked to the factory. I can get houses in 90 days now. So we're back down to the norm in ordering houses. Yes, my city care will own them and they will maintain them. And your $175,000, I haven't done the math, but it's an incentive for a period of time. And when that's exhausted, then my city care will pay you taxes on that. And so it's for a 20-year period, and they have to commit. But that is what they do. So they're not a profit organization, you know, tapping their foot waiting for this 20-year to be over. If those buildings have a service life of 40 years, then they fully intend to maintain low-income housing for the life of the home.
Follow up, Mr. Mayor?
Sure, you bet.
Yeah, I guess so. You're dealing with CMHC in this particular project. So it's
Correct.
non-political, they make the decisions for you, or how is that? Was that a federal government announcement through CMHC? I don't quite recall how that $1.5 billion was created by someone.
Yeah, it's a non-political process. So
Yeah.
the federal government is under a lot of pressure to provide housing.
Yeah.
And so you see it on and on, right? And
Yeah.
so no doubt it's politically motivated to, you know, put out those fires before they call an election or do whatever. Not that there's a federal election anytime soon. But again, they were finding that their $70 billion wasn't being utilized because the process is so arduous to get in. So we've actually now offered small communities in remote areas a consulting service because you'll never get through one of these applications if you don't have the team that we have to put this together. We can move quickly. we've done several of them now. This will be our third, so our fourth actually. And so, yeah, we've got as much chance as anyone because we actually worked with CMHC representative from Calgary on this application. So they proofread it before we submitted it and said that you've checked all the necessary boxes, but he wasn't the one making the decision on who gets what. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you're acting in the capacity of a consultant in this project?
In this project, I'm acting as a consultant. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I have a conflict of interest because I own half the land with all of you. So you know, it wasn't like I was laying awake at night and God led me to Medicine Hat. Ironically, I came to Tabor. So you know, I mean, there's a connection there. But yes, it is.
I wasn't going to go there anyway.
I'm not blind. I'm not
kudos-
blind to the fact of
kudos to you.
opportunity.
No,
But
my
what-
question is what is the scope of this management that will take place of the properties?
So we manage over 200 units now, homes, and so we would provide, we would advertise them for rent, we would screen the tenant, we would make sure that they have, you know, the ability to pay what rent they need to pay, and then we award them we sign a lease with them. It would be a 1-year lease, and there's rules and regulations, of course, within the condominium and within the management agreement, and they've got to abide by that. That's the management side, because you will, unfortunately, with this demographic, this, you know, low income, the places cannot always look so good, and so there's hopefully will come alongside and help the individual maintain their yard and do those things, but we can't have it looking less than stellar, because we also want, of course, other community members to move into our development. Correct.
All right, thank you, Councillor Firth.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation, and to all of the members of My City Cares. I see what you guys do in our community, and you're really filling some gaps, so thank you for that. 20 years, that's a long time. Is there any plans for coordination or participation with Tabor District Housing Foundation? Because this is kind of the core of what they do as well, so I'm just curious if there's been any discussion or with them.
Yeah, there certainly was no intent there. It's just we had to move so quickly to get this in, and so, but you could see the list of organizations that both Parallel and My City Care work with. They have no agenda other than to help, and so if there's a local organization that can provide assistance here, then we're all there. Yeah, we're not trying to hog the agenda on helping the.
Just a follow-up, sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, no, my intention wasn't, sorry, that you guys were stepping on toes or trying to take. I
Right.
know that the need is huge, and I'm sure there's lots to go around, lots of need, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thibault.
I just wanted to make mention that the letter that had been sent around to council approving the support of this project spoke to that $175,000, and that is just our tax incentive bylaw, Councillor Beckering. So that equals that bylaw times as many lots over the course of the 5 years. That's our contribution.
All right, thank you, Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and this is an exciting project, and I look forward to hopefully the approval of it. The wheels are turning. How are you gonna do this? Are you gonna offer it to foreign immigrants? What's the terms of the rental agreement? I don't know if you've come to the specifics of it yet, of the program? No.
It's kind of like a lottery. You don't decide what you're going to do with the money until you win. So, I don't know, maybe. But so I would say that that will be a very good problem to have. And certainly as partners in this project, we will go slowly and work with town administration, and certainly they can be their conduit to you to guide us, and perhaps the local housing authority, as you mentioned, can work with us, that we're very careful before the public announcement is made. I know that I'm just opening a new GP clinic on the west side of Lethbridge, and the amount of people without a doctor, it's very, very difficult to govern who gets a doctor and who doesn't. So it went out on social media, and it's unbelievable the flood of people that we had in. And so it's, yeah, and this will be the same. You have lots of people with need, and being at 60% rents, like this will be very, very popular. So how do you assess need? And there could be 35 people that are on the same level of need, and then how do you decide? You know, you can take them from the bottom up, but if there's that level of need in the community, I don't know, it won't be me that makes that decision, that's for sure. So, but yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but we haven't talked about it.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Bergen, I'm very excited about this particular project also, especially from a sympathetic, empathetic side, of course, and
Yes.
also what, as a Christian, you're called to do, according to Matthew, right? When you responded to a question from Council Rudd, you said we. Who is we? Is that Parallel? Is that My City Care? Is that Mr. Bergen Associates? Who is that?
What question was I answering?
About maintenance and all those things, and and placement of people, and
maintenance. Okay, so
interviews, and you weed them out, I guess, in a sense, or
yes. So right now, I am the body that is the organization that's in the application as the property manager.
Okay.
Because we needed that level of experience. So that if there's, I'm not looking to do that work here in Taber. So if there's a property manager here that you respect and their office is obviously closer than mine, that would be great if there was someone in town. So we're not looking for that work. But again, because we had to move quickly and that resume had to go in, mine went in on the Lethbridge project, so we put it in on all the projects. But so yeah, so if I could just add to my presentation, which I didn't mention earlier, this opportunity connects all the dots of when Gary and Phyllis came to see me 3 years ago on wanting to do, affordable housing in Taber. It doesn't get better than this. A check from the government that we can do 60% rents and put them in brand new houses. That's what we're talking about doing. So it's just, this would be amazing if we could get this approval. So
great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bergen, just thank you again for all your presentations and for what this is all about. It's ironically enough, this fits our mandate completely.
It absolutely
as far as what this is about with our affordable attainable housing project at the Meadows with some 302 lots available. So I'm just wondering, this may be a little premature. We're trying to be optimistic. I'm hopeful and likely we're going to be successful more than we know with what's been said here tonight. And the individual that was overseeing the initial application, and we got that all in the hurry up offense, which is great. And I think we've done our due diligence that way. I'm just wondering, is there a chance, or do you know at this stage, if this can be expanded? We do have 300 plus lots available. So this is around about 10% of the lots available that we've got out there. So is there a chance to expand this, even if once this flies in whatever capacity? Can this also be expanded in a bigger, better scenario?
Sure. So we're always looking for opportunity. So what's interesting is my pastor and I meet on a regular basis on how we can help the community, and I was talking to him about what we did for the Aboriginal Housing Society, and so we jumped on that bandwagon, and both the seed money and that program are already not available. Like they've disbanded, like they've shut that down, and now this rapid one comes along, and all this money will be eaten up. So who knows what will come along next? So we'll keep our ear to the ground. We do have favor with CMHC from the perspective of we know what we're doing. We know how to put an application together that's easy for them to read. But you can imagine the behind the scenes conversations that go on for who gets what in what writing and all of that. I can't imagine what goes on behind the scenes. And so, yeah, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of applications that went in that someone more powerful than you and I knows they'll never get money because of whatever reason, Yeah, so we that's beyond our control, but we do know that we have favor because we're here to help the poor. That is a biblical principle, and so we will, one way or another, we will succeed in getting people housing, one way or another.
All right, I think it's timing is everything. This is exactly what's going on in this case scenario. We just had a presentation earlier in today's meeting about the EIIP program, or the foreign worker program. Some 35 families already approved and 13 that are actually working here now in Taber and area. So it's 6 months since that's been going on. And they have individuals that are housed with other families, et cetera, different ways that way that also has to be done. But there's such a need here in that capacity also as far as the work shortage and the employment requirements. So housing is a huge part of this.
It's huge.
And so if we can coordinate all this together with this timing and this place and time, I think we're more than on the right track and some great potential going forward, absolutely.
I totally agree. We got 95 lots that are ready to go, so.
Don't take long to get the rest going either, if
It
need
won't,
be.
no.
So
Pipes are in the ground, so.
absolutely,
We're
absolutely.
game. We're game.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, well, thank you again, folks, so much for your presentation, and we look forward to some very positive results going forward, and can't wait for the end result, and look to bigger and better potential, and hopefully a great success in the future. Thank you. Thank you again so much. All right, so no motion required at this stage. All right, moving on to media inquiries. Mr. Hebel?
There are no media inquiries.
No media inquiries whatsoever. All right, with that, could I get a motion to move into closed session, please? Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to go into closed session.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.